Curious how the ranch building is in Wild West Dynasty? If so, this is the video for you. Today we're going to take a season-by-season bird's eye look at building here in Wild West Dynasty. I'm Wispabird and I'll be taking you through each step. If you want an informational video on what Wild West Dynasty is and how far along it is in its early access, I'm going to put a link to that in the top right corner of this video. The ranch's humble beginnings kick off in the season of fall, on the outskirts of the town of Taxation. I'm going to name it Lonesome Dove Ranch, after Larry McMurtry's great novel and series, Lonesome Dove. I think I picked a landscape that reminds me a little bit of the ranch you see on Lonesome Dove, where Captain Call has his Hell Witch mare. If you know, you know. The first thing my ranch is going to need is a house. Before I set this up, I did level up my character so I could build the larger foundations, which is what I'm going to do here. Wild West Dynasty offers you 3 different size of foundations, like 5 meters by 9 meters is the one I'm going to go with, and then it also allows you to pick the base of your foundation, so each one looks different. One of them looks like logs, one of them looks like planks, and one of them looks like stones, and then there's one that looks like a mix of both. In a similar way, once you've placed your foundation, you can then pick what you want the outside of your house to look like, and this is customizable in the form of wall module building pieces. I decided to go for the stone and wood corner piece option, and then, in a similar way, yet again, you can choose what type of wall piece you want to put around the outside, actually all the way around the outside. So you can pick where you want the windows, you can pick where you want the doors, and you can change what kind of window you have going on. Sometimes you can mix and match the pieces, but I've found that staying consistent is a pretty good look. The final part of the house to hammer together is the roof, and honestly there isn't that much customization that can come with the roof. I'd hope that as we keep developing and moving through early access that more customization options will become available as we progress through our builds. After the roof, it was time to start thinking about how I'm going to survive out in a semi-desert type area, so I put a well down. The way this works is that you go into your radial menu and you choose the ranch option and then find the well there. There seems to be 2 different branches to building in this game. One is the ranch building and one is the city building. 2 completely different sets of buildings with 2 completely different sets of requirements. Building a well allowed me to keep on top of my own thirst as well as provide a future source of water when I need buckets for watering my plants. Before finishing up with the fall season, I wanted to see how much I could customize my little house before I move forward and build some more structures here on the ranch. So I picked some wild bergamot and I threw them into the workbench and I made some paint. Painting is pretty straightforward and it even gives you the option to paint the window frame if you want to versus painting the whole facade of the wall itself. So I really do appreciate that we have been given this option to go around and collect the different colors that we want via flower and then throw them on our house. Now that our ranch house matches the Red Rock Canyons behind it, I thought it would be a good time to place down a pantry so that when we do get around to harvesting meat or collecting our groceries from the garden, that we will have somewhere to actually put them so they do not spoil. Next up is building a crop dryer so that we can dry out what we harvest in order to get seeds from it so that we can become more self-efficient and not have to keep running back into town to buy seeds from the NPCs. And now a little bit of good and a little bit of bad. So the good is that I really like the fence building. You can basically just click and drag a fence to frame things exactly the way you would want them to do, which I feel like is really a valuable thing to be able to do on a ranch in a town building / base building game. The negative of this next part of the clip, unfortunately, is that I tried to build a pigsty or a pig pen because it kind of would make sense that a ranch family or, not a town should be able to have a pigsty. So many small farms I know have pigsties. I'm not sure why this building has to be connected strictly to the town you build as opposed to just being connected to the ranch. This is an issue for me because in order to build town buildings, you have to have built a warehouse, and it only has a certain radius around it in which you can then go ahead and build those town buildings. So what I'm wanting to do is have my ranch on the outskirts of my town, but I'm not sure if my radius would reach out as far as my ranch is to encompass where I would like to put the pigsty. So that's my gripe with that. A round pen is up next on the list of things that the ranch needs because of course we need somewhere to keep our horse, right? Unfortunately, right now when you do place a barn down, you can't really put your horse in it unless you get a lucky jump. So for now, I'm just going to put a round pen here on the ranch. I think the other option is to build a stable, but again, I think that that is a town building, so we run into the same issue with the workshop being out of range and radius. But what I'm probably going to end up doing is build the town on the other side of this round pen once I get everything sectioned off. So I'll put the stables right next to the round pen, and hopefully it'll look like a smooth transition between ranch and town, similar to the setting of Lonesome Dove's movie series. As I built, I quickly made the transition from fall to winter and winter to spring, which is a good thing because we're going to focus on actually planting the garden now and trying to get that going so it can become more of a functional ranch and less of just something to look at. Thankfully, we can just place down crop plots as we wish. We do not have to have a barn anymore in order to have to place down crop plots around it. So I'm freeform placing and rotating my crop plots just the way I like them along the fenced-in border that I did make around the ranch. The way that planting works in Wild West Dynasty is you find some seeds, you plant them in the appropriate season, but also you collect dung from, right now, cows, and bring that dung back to a workbench to make fertilizer. Right now, we don't have our own cows or animals in the game to collect dung from, so you do have to make a journey into taxation in order to pick up the poop there. Some of these seeds are planted in odd seasons, so like I couldn't plant any of the seeds I had in spring, but I was able to plant beans in summer, so that's going to end up being the first thing I harvest. Summer began to draw to a close, and I realized I made it through my first full year with my ranch in Wild West Dynasty. As you can see, I added a barn building just for the fun of it, and I finished the fencing around the perimeter of the ranch, and so this is kind of how it's looking now. I have some cotton planted, I have the beans of course, and I have some pumpkins now planted. Obviously, it would be ideal if I could actually have animals here to call this a ranch, but at least when the developers do add animals, I'm going to be well set up to be able to feed them because I will be able to grow my own grains and things like that now that I have my garden all set up and ready to go. It's actually kind of funny that I ended up with 2 horses here on the ranch because that's exactly how it is right now on my real farm. I have 2 horses currently. I do have a whole gaggle of chickens, which I can't have in this game yet, but here's to hoping, right? To conclude the video, I'm going to harvest our crops, and I'm going to take what we got and put a portion of it into the crop dryer so that we can get seeds back without having to go back into taxation to keep buying them. And then I'm going to take the beans that we got and make some canned green beans out of them. I was assuming that since they are canned, they might have a longer shelf life, but when I looked at the spoil bar, it did seem like it was consistently dropping pretty quickly. Maybe in the future of the game that can be changed up a bit so that canned food can last a little longer compared to freshly cooked food. That wraps up my bird's eye building look at Wild West Dynasty's ranching. It was my first full year of ranching in Wild West Dynasty, and I'm excited to say that I didn't encounter any bugs or any weirdness going through, just generally wanting more and wanting to be able to do more things with the ranch alone before we get into the city building. So again, I will just say that the ranch building and the city building are 2 different things, but if you build your town right next to your ranch, then they end up working together, so I'm not really sure that it matters all that much. Maybe that'll change once we get more management options as the game progresses through early access. If you want to see more update videos like this as Wild West Dynasty makes its way through early access, please let me know in the comments down below. If you want more from me, you can find the links to my Discord server and my Twitter profile in the description box down below also. That's it for me, guys. As always, I hope you are enjoying your games, particularly if you are looking into Wild West Dynasty. This is me signing off, and I will see you all in the next one.